Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and I'm here today at Limex with a super cool and ridiculously rare Italian prototype assault rifle. This might not be what you think of when you think assault rifle, but this really meets all of the technical specifications. This is a select fire, intermediate caliber, detachable magazine, infantry small arm. So where this comes from is equally interesting. In World War I, Italy was, well, it was basically only Italy and Germany that actually fielded submachine guns, and Italy's were the better of the two countries. The Beretta 1918 was a fantastic firearm that saw probably no actual combat use, but might have seen just a little bit right at the end of the war. At any rate, you would think Italy was kind of on the cutting edge of submachine guns and would have continued their development. Instead, when the war ends, Italy shuts down all of its submachine gun development, or shuts down all its production, and sets up a military panel or commission to study whether pistol caliber submachine guns are actually a technology that is worthwhile, that they ought to be pursuing. They set up a trial, apparently, in 1920. All of my information on this is a bit hazy, like I can't find very much written, so I'm giving you the best overview that I've been able to piece together. 1920, they set up a trial comparing intermediate cartridges, like this one. This is 735 by 32 millimeter, 135 grain bullet at about 2,000 feet per second, so right in that same ballpark as 30 carbine and 7.92 Kurtz. They have this rifle, they have some 9mm submachine guns in the trial, and they have some reduced load 6.5 Carcanos. And it's unclear exactly what kind of firearms those are, but from the context, it probably is some sort of semi-auto conversions of the bolt-action Carcano. There were a number of those that were done around this time period. So they put all of these together into some trials to get an idea for which basic system has the most potential. And the answer is the intermediate caliber does. This sort of thing does. It is controllable, it gives a lot of firepower, it's semi-auto or full auto flip of a switch back here. And this is the system that they decide to continue developing. Now, the information I found says they made 200 of these in either 1920 or 1923, which is clearly not the case because this is number 14 and it's dated 1928. So I don't know exactly what the explanation is. Clearly this example at least is a later developed version. There are some pictures of guns just like this that use a typical traditional box magazine instead of a Fiat-Revelli style cube magazine, for lack of a better term. We'll take a close look at this in a moment. But they actually made allegedly a couple hundred of these guns for further field trials. So let's take a look at it, and let's take it all apart. It's a short recoil operated gun with the world's most bizarre monopod. Sorry if I just let that sit out there. It is a folding monopod, and it's truly bizarre. All right, let's start with the bizarre front end on this gun. There's two things going on here. We have a monopod that has this folding piece that folds up there, and the whole thing folds up under the gun. But in order to deploy it, like there's no stop. This thing will just pivot all the way forward. So the only way to actually use it in a stable manner is to lock this piece under this lug. Now, this lug is a sliding bayonet, which in order to use the monopod, you have to have the bayonet 50% extended. There are 3 notches where this can be positioned. This is the middle one, and it actually works with the bayonet reasonably well. It's bizarre, but that's the system as far as I can tell. I realized I probably owe an apology here. I just noticed that there used to be some additional metal right here that has broken off at some point. So I suspect there was some element there that allowed you to lock this monopod in place. Other than using the bayonet as a locking catch, I don't know the exact details because I don't know what exactly broke off here, but certainly a lot of thought and maybe not a lot of wisdom went into designing this weird thing. However, we can also come in here, pull this down, and then this thing is really tight because it spent a long time in Ethiopia. So I can extend the bayonet all the way out there, and then fold the bipod back underneath. And that is the bayonet fixed for actual bayonet use. So you can see the two locking notches for the bayonet here. Pull this down to drop its locking lug right there. There we go. Slide that all the way back. And then I can once again fold the bipod down over it. So now we have the bayonet stowed. All right, the next element to show you here is the magazine, because this is obviously a little bizarre. So first off, the thing to look at to get a better idea for how this works is the Fiat-Revelli model of 1914 Italian water-cooled heavy machine gun, because it uses a magazine like this, which is essentially a whole bunch of single stack 5-round magazines in a row. So each one of these followers goes down like so. You stack 5 rounds in each one, and then you insert this thing in one side of the gun like that. Now, again, this is a Fiat-Revelli magazine. It does not fit because this is 6.5 Carcano. This is 7.35 by 32 millimeter. But this goes in. It will feed the first 5 rounds from the first magazine. When this follower tab gets to the top, it triggers an indexing catch in the gun, and the whole magazine is slid over one position, and then it fires these, and then these, and these, etc., until the whole empty mag spits out the far end of the gun. This particular rifle, these Terni 1921 rifles, use a 5x5 size block. So their magazine holds 25 rounds, and it's essentially like this size. So you can see there's 2 tabs at the bottom. Those would fit in this groove. We have, I believe, a magazine release right here to allow you to remove a partially fired box. And then this is the spring catch. Actually, I'm sorry, I think it feeds in this side. This is the spring catch right here that's going to push the magazine from side to side as you use it. So there is a stop right here that prevents the magazine from sliding forward. When I pull this in, it drops that catch so that you could pull the magazine out the back. Now with the feed system out of the way, let's take a quick look at markings. This is marked Terni. It was the Terni Arsenal that did, as far as I can tell, the developmental work on this select fire intermediate cartridge program. This is serial number 14, and the gun's marked 14 in a bunch of different places. And we have a barrel date of 1928 there. The sights are taken straight off of a regular Carcano carbine, although they're very stiff because they've had a very long life. So I'll leave that down. But your rear sight, just like a Carcano carbine. The front sight is also just like a Carcano carbine. Now we have this bracket here because this is a recoil operated rifle. So the barrel is actually going to be cycling back and forth as you fire, and this bracket acts to hold the barrel in place at the front end. We have a fire selector lever on the back of the magazine bracket. So Arafica means burst, and this is not functional anymore. There's something missing, but I presume that was full auto and this side was semi-auto. This is just a manual bolt hold open. You can push it over and it'll lock the bolt in place. I can show you that in a minute. Then the most important lever here is this one. So this allows me to manually cycle the action open. So if you watch the action right there, I'm camming the whole action back, and that's all this lever is. It's forcing the recoiling components to go backward because that unlocks the action, and I have to actually hold it in. That allows me to cycle the bolt. And there it is, back in battery. This will make a little more sense when we pull it apart and you see the internals. Now I can push that lever and I can cycle the thing at the front, and you can see the barrel move in its bracket right there. There we go. That's basically full recoil travel of the action. So when you fire, it's going to recoil back this far. That unlocks the bolt, which then cycles back, ejects the empty round, chambers a new round, and locks into position, ready to fire the next round. All right, now let's go ahead and disassemble this. I'm actually going to start by taking off buttstock. So 2 screws out. I can pull off the trigger guard right there, and then the buttstock comes off like so. So there's actually not really anything going on here, just 2 little tubes, spacers to hold these screws. You can see the trigger mechanism in here. There is a semi-auto disconnector that you can hear clicking. There's some component that's missing that would have allowed the full auto lever to somehow disable the disconnector, but I don't have that in there right now. Next up, we're going to take off the front end, and to do that, I'm first going to remove the bayonet and monopod. So we'll take that screw out. Pull this over, there we go. So that bracket comes off. That's the nose cap with the muzzle support bracket and this whole bizarre monopod assembly. Upper handguard then comes off, and there's really nothing at all up there. Of course, there's no gas system on this rifle because it's recoil operated. Now we can take the lower handguard off. 1 screw out, and then this is just going to slide off like that. So now you can see this lever. You can see all it does is have a little lug there that pushes the action backwards. We have this dovetail, this track right there, and this bracket on the bottom of the action. This slides in right there, and it moves back and forth. So when you're shooting, the handguard remains in position, and the action is going to cycle back and forth inside it. All right, the way this actually functions, it's short recoil. It has a vertically traveling locking block right there. You can see the edge of it. You can see it on the other side as well. The barreled action, the receiver and the barrel up here, cycle backwards just a few millimeters when you fire. And when they move backward, it cams this locking lug down, which unlocks the bolt and allows it to cycle backwards. So I can show you this. It's a tight spring, but there we go. You can see it just starting to come back. Just with that little bit of travel, you can see this locking lug start to come down. In fact, actually, the easier way to do this is for me to put the handguard back on and use this lug to show you. So let me do that. All right, so now I can use this to give myself some leverage. There we go. You can see as the action moves backward, this lug drops, and that allows the bolt to open. So I can remove the bolt easily enough, pull this back, unscrew the end cap on the receiver. There we go, that's got a recoil spring in it. So that is the bolt. This is the locking surface. So that surface right there locks on that lug in the receiver when it's in the upward position. So inside here, this is not in good shape. The spring's jammed or stuck or something, but this is your striker. So that lug, it's going to be in this position. That lug is held back by the sear, and when you pull the trigger, it's going to release that to go forward to fire. So kind of cool. There doesn't have to be any rotating separate element in the bolt head because that's your locking surface right there. And again, when the action reciprocates backward under recoil, that locking lug drops. All right, and there you go, one field-stripped Terni Model 1921 short recoil intermediate caliber assault rifle. As best I've been able to find, this whole project was canceled in 1928, which is a little odd given that this is a 1928 dated gun, so maybe it went a little bit longer. It's really, I'd love to find some more detailed information on this whole period and this work in Italy. I don't know how much of it's actually out there, but if you know of a good source for information on this, please let me know down in the comments. At any rate, the guns that were left over, because it wasn't just, single-digit prototypes, it was also 3-digit numbers of troop trials guns, were sold off mostly as surplus, and in fact, a lot of them ended up going to Ethiopia. Well, Ethiopia has sold off all of its surplus guns in the last couple of years, and lo and behold, this one turned up out of Ethiopia. So unfortunately, it didn't have its magazine with it. This is a Fiat-Revelli machine gun magazine, similar, same system, but not interchangeable, different caliber. Anyway, it has been a fantastic opportunity to finally get my hands on one of these so that I can take it apart and show it to you guys. Big thanks to Limex for giving me access to it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.